That night, the knocking didn't come. Instead came the sound of turning. Slow, heavy, rhythmic. The wheel. Reuben lay rigid on the floor, listening as it churned, though the stream outside was too low to move it. The sound didn't come from outside anyway. It came from beneath the floor. He pressed his hands to his ears, but he still felt it. The vibration deep in his chest, like his own heart had synced with it. When he dared glance at Emily, she was sitting upright in her chair, rocking faster now, whispering, "It's turning, it's turning, it's turning." Reuben shut his eyes, but the wheel never stopped. At some point he slept. He knew because he woke up in the mill. Not the ruin, but the mill as it had been. The air hummed with steam and sweat. The wheel thundered, driving belts and pulleys that clattered with mechanical hunger. Men worked in lines, bent and silent, their hands raw as they fed grain into the machines. But when Reuben stepped closer, he saw they were not men at all. Their faces were blank. No eyes, no mouths. Smooth skin stretched over skulls. They moved without sound, without choice. And above them, on the catwalk, a figure watched. Tall, thin, pale. Its face was not blank. Its eyes were endless dark sockets, its mouth a hole too wide, too still. Reuben tried to move, but his body would not obey. The wheel thundered faster, drowning everything, and the figure raised one long, white hand. The eyeless workers stopped, turned their heads toward him, and though they had no mouths, he heard their voices all the same. "Join, join, join." He woke up gasping, his body slick with cold sweat. Emily was standing by the window, a blanket pooled around her feet. Her hair hung limp and wet against her face, though the rain hadn't touched her. She pressed her hand to the glass. "They're calling," she whispered. Reuben dragged himself upright. "Don't listen." Her reflection in the glass smiled, though her real face did not. The days blurred. Time lost its shape. Sometimes the sun rose, sometimes it did not. Sometimes they heard Mark's voice outside, sometimes footsteps above, sometimes nothing at all. The wheel never stopped turning. Reuben began to hear whispers in the silence. At first faint, like water through stone, then clearer. The wheel must turn. The valley must eat. When he tried to shut it out, it pressed harder, filling his skull. He caught himself whispering back without meaning to, his lips moving in time with Emily's. At night, he dreamed of the figure again. Each time it stood closer, hand raised, waiting. On the fourth night, without Mark, the vision changed. Reuben found himself not in the mill, but outside it. The valley stretched endless in both directions. No hills, no sky, only mist. The wheel turned, though there was no water, each rotation tearing screams from the fog itself. Bodies hung on its spokes, twisted, broken, still living. Their faces peeled back in agony. He stepped closer, unable to stop himself. Among them, he saw Mark. His eyes were pits, his mouth slack, yet he whispered Reuben's name again and again, his voice swallowed by the wheel's groan. "Help me," he mouthed. "Help!" The pale figure appeared beside him. It didn't look at Mark. It looked only at Reuben, and it smiled with its whole mouth impossibly wide. "You are chosen," it said. And then the wheel split the air with a sound like tearing flesh, and Reuben woke screaming. The cottage stank of rot when he sat up, gagging. Emily was gone. He staggered to the door, but it was already open. Fog poured in. Outside, faint shapes moved toward the mill. Emily was among them. Her bare feet dragged through the mud. Her eyes were open but empty, her lips still moving. Around her walked others, half seen through the fog. Villagers, workers, long dead faces, all drifting in silence. A procession toward the mill. Reuben's heart cracked in his chest. "Emily!" he screamed, stumbling after her. She didn't turn. The closer he drew, the thicker the fog became, until he could see nothing but the black bulk of the mill looming overhead. The door stood open now, the chains fallen away, rusted links curled in the mud like shed skin. Inside, the wheel roared. Emily stepped through the door without hesitation. Reuben lunged, grabbing her wrist, but her skin was ice and she didn't slow. She pulled him with her into the dark. The interior was alive. Machinery groaned, though no water powered it. Shadows bent and writhed across the walls. The air was hot, choking, heavy with iron and blood. The procession moved inside, joining countless others already at work. The eyeless workers stood at their posts, arms pumping in mechanical rhythm. The wheel above turned, dripping black water that hissed where it fell. Emily slipped from his grasp, vanishing into the throng. Reuben shouted, fought through the bodies, but they closed around him, their faceless heads turning in unison. Join! The word pounded his skull. His vision blurred, and then the figure was there. Pale, towering, endless. Its eyes were voids, its mouth too wide. It bent low, its face level with his. You see, it whispered. You belong. Reuben shook his head, though his body was already moving, his arms jerking in rhythm with the wheel. His voice cracked. No. The figure's hand pressed to his chest, cold as death. The wheel's thunder matched his heartbeat. For a moment, he thought it would tear him open. Then the fog surged, swallowing the vision whole. He woke sprawled on the cottage floor. Alone, the door stood open to the mist. Emily was gone. The wheel was still turning. And in the silence after, one truth sank into his bones. He had not dreamed any of it. The mill was feeding, and soon it would come for him. Chapter 7. The ashes of the past. The cottage was empty, not just of people, of warmth, of sound, of anything that belonged to the living. Reuben sat hunched at the table, staring at Emily's blanket crumpled on the chair. It still smelled faintly of her soap, lavender, and cheap detergent, but even that was fading. He hadn't moved since waking. He didn't trust what the valley showed him anymore. If he left the cottage, he feared he wouldn't return. But staying was no safer. The walls felt thinner every hour, as if the mill's shadow stretched inside, wearing the house like a skin. The wheel turned. He didn't need to hear it now. He felt it, a pulse under his skin, a rhythm stitched to his heart. By mid-morning, the fog shifted, showing shapes beyond the glass. For one aching second, he thought Emily was back. But it wasn't her. It was Mark, or something in Mark's shape. He stood at the treeline, clothes soaked, eyes black pits. His mouth opened and closed, a fish gasping on the bank, but no sound came. His arms lifted slowly, reaching toward the cottage. Reuben staggered back. No. Mark's jaw cracked wide, splitting impossibly until his mouth was a gaping hole. From it came the sound of the wheel. Thump, thump, thump. Reuben tore the blanket from the chair and threw it over the window, shaking so hard his teeth rattled. When he finally dared to look again, Mark was gone. That night, Reuben didn't sleep. Instead, he lit every candle in the cottage and sat by the hearth with the last of the bread, chewing until his jaw ached. The light flickered, shadows dancing, but they no longer looked like shadows. They looked like workers, faceless and bowed, rocking in time with the unseen wheel. He closed his eyes. Their whisper filled the silence. Join, join, join. On the second day alone, he searched the cottage, not for food, already eaten what little was left, but for something else, anything that might explain why they were here. Behind a warped cupboard, he found a loose panel. Inside, wrapped in oilcloth, lay a bundle of papers. Brittle, stained, edges gnawed by damp. He carried them to the table, hands trembling. They were ledgers, records of the mill. The earliest dated back to the mid-1700s. Names scrawled in ink, lists of grain, shipments, debts. But as the years passed, the writing changed. Numbers gave way to symbols, circles, and wheels scratched into the margins. The handwriting grew frantic, desperate. In one entry, nearly illegible beneath water stains, he read, "The wheel must turn. The valley demands its tithe. Those taken are not lost, but joined. The dead feed the living. The living feed the dead." Beneath it, a symbol had been drawn, the same circle with 8 spokes carved into the mill's walls. Reuben's skin crawled. His stomach turned as he read further, piecing fragments together. The mill hadn't been built for industry. Not really. It was built for the wheel. The owners hadn't ground grain. They had fed something older, something that required blood to keep the valley alive. Each generation, it demanded workers. It demanded souls. By candlelight, Reuben traced the final legible entry, written in a trembling hand. It will not stop. The wheel must turn. We bind it with iron and stone, but still turns. It eats us. God forgive us. The ink trailed into a smear, as if the writer had been dragged from the page mid-sentence. Reuben shoved the papers away while rising. His throat burned. He staggered to the door and shoved it open, gasping for air. The mill loomed through the fog, always there, always watching. And suddenly he knew. The cottage, the valley, even their arrival here, none of it had been chance. They had been brought, chosen. The wheel was still hungry. That night, the knocking returned. This time, it was different. It came in rhythm. Thump, 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 then pause. Thump, thump, thump. It was mocking him. Reuben pressed his palms to his ears, tears burning his eyes. "Leave me alone," he shouted. The knocking stopped, but the silence was worse. On the third day, hunger gnawed through him. He searched the cupboards again, desperate, though he knew there was nothing left. Instead, he found another bundle of papers tucked beneath the floorboards by the hearth. These weren't ledgers. They were letters. The first few were mundane. Notes about shipments, family gossip, complaints about rain and broken carts. But the later ones, they whispered to me in my sleep. The men see them too, but dare not speak. We are joined now. The valley does not release what it takes. The children hear the wheel, even when it is still. Their eyes are not their own. My wife does not answer when I call her name. If we burn it, will it end? Or will the fire only feed it more? Reuben's breath caught. The question was the same one Mark had asked. The final letter was short, the words scrawled as if in panic. "Forgive me. I go to join them. Better the wheel than the silence." Reuben set the papers down. His hand was shaking too badly to hold them. He looked at the door. The fog pressed close, hiding the mill's shape, but he didn't need to see it anymore. He felt it in his bones. The wheel wasn't just turning beneath the valley. It was turning inside him. Each night, it thundered louder, until his heartbeat matched its rhythm. Sometimes he swore his own breath came in time with it. He couldn't last. He knew it. Soon he would go too, like Emily. Like Mark. On the fourth night, he dreamed again. This time he stood not in the mill, but beneath it. The floorboards above groaned as machinery churned, but he was in the dark, waist deep in black water. Shapes floated past him. Bones. Faces. Eyeless and open-mouthed. They brushed against his arms, whispering as they sank. From the shadows, the pale figure rose, taller than before. "Endless. You are chosen," it said. "You are the last." Reuben's chest clenched. He wanted to scream, but the water filled his mouth. The wheel thundered above, each turn pulling him deeper until the dark closed over his head. He woke choking, sprawled on the floorboards. His throat burned with the taste of river water. His clothes were wet. The cottage door was open. Mud streaked the floor where his feet had dragged. He hadn't gone to the mill, not yet, but he had begun to walk. By morning, the fog was thicker than he had ever seen. The cottage walls sweated with damp. Reuben sat at the table, staring at the door, too afraid to close it. Through the fog came whispers. Not words this time, but laughter, thin, high, endless. He pressed his hands over his ears, but the sound grew louder inside his skull. When he looked up, Emily was sitting across from him. Her eyes were gone. Her mouth moved in silence. Behind her, Mark stood, jaw unhinged, mouth yawning into a black hole. They stared at him, waiting. "Leave me alone," Reuben whispered. But they only smiled with their hollow faces. And behind them, the wheel turned. By nightfall, he had made his choice. He gathered the letters and ledgers, stuffing them into his pack. His torch, nearly dead, he clutched like a weapon. If the mill wanted him, it would have him, but not as prey. He would go to it on his own feet. He would see what lay inside, and if he could, he would end it. The valley thundered with the sound of the wheel as he stepped into the fog, and the door closed behind him. Chapter 8: The Descent. The fog swallowed him whole. Reuben walked blind, torchlight barely cutting more than a foot ahead. His boots sank into the sodden earth, mud clinging like hands. Each step was slower, heavier, as though the valley itself resisted him. Yet he felt the pull. The wheel's rhythm pounded through the mist, steady and relentless, guiding his heart, his breath, his steps. Thump, thump, thump. He didn't need to see the mill to know where it was. It drew him the way gravity pulls the sea. When the black bulk of the mill finally rose before him, he almost fell to his knees in relief. The chains were gone. The doors stood wide, yawning into blackness. The stench rolled out to meet him. Rot, iron, and something sweeter, cloying, like flowers left too long in water. Reuben lifted his torch. His hand shook, but his voice was steady. "I'm not afraid of you." The mill seemed to hum at that, its walls vibrating like a plucked string. He stepped inside. The air changed at once. Damp and warm, heavy as breath. Shadows writhed across the stone, though his torch remained steady. The great gears loomed, still, yet the sound of turning thundered through the floor. He moved deeper, past the rusted troughs and rotted sacks, past piles of bone picked clean. His boots crunched over fragments, not stone, not wood, but teeth. The stairwell yawned ahead, sagging under its own weight. He hesitated. Last time, it had led only to terror. But the wheel's rhythm called from below. He descended. The steps creaked, dust cascading, the smell of damp earth thickening with each footfall. At the landing, the walls wept black water. Strange symbols had been scratched into the stone, circles within circles. The eight-spoked wheel repeated endlessly. His torchlight flickered. For a moment, he thought the symbols moved, spokes turning slowly beneath the stone. He tore his eyes away. At the far wall, a doorway gaped, half collapsed, its lintel bowed. He hadn't seen it before. The wheel pounded louder beyond it. He ducked low and stepped through. The passage sloped downward, rough-hewn, dripping. His torch hissed against the damp air. The walls narrowed until his shoulders brushed both sides. Whispers followed him, first faint, then clearer. "Reuben, Reuben, Reuben." He spun, torch raised. No one, only stone and dark. But when he faced forward again, the passage was wider, and someone stood at the far end. Emily. She was barefoot, her dress soaked, hair plastered to her face. Her eyes were gone, sockets glistening black. Yet she smiled. "You came," she whispered. Reuben's chest cracked. "Emily, don't be afraid. It doesn't hurt. It's peaceful." Her head tilted, grin widening until it split the corners of her cheeks. "You'll see." Her skin rippled. Her arms lengthened. Her mouth gaped wide, black as the sockets of her eyes. Reuben stumbled back, torch shaking. Then she was gone. Only mist. He pressed on. His breath rasped in the close air, each step heavier. The tunnel twisted, dropped, opened, and then the space widened abruptly into a cavern. Reuben stopped dead. The wheel was here. Not the wooden water wheel outside, but something vaster, carved of stone and bone, turning slowly in the dark. Each spoke dripped black water, each rotation groaning like a world in pain. Around its base huddled figures, dozens, hundreds, eyeless workers bent in endless rhythm, their bodies jerking with emotion. Reuben's torch sputtered. At the far side of the wheel, the pale figure waited. It was taller than the cavern, its head bent against the ceiling. Its limbs were too long, its skin white and slick as fat. Its mouth stretched from ear to ear, open but unmoving. It raised one hand. "You see now," it whispered. The voice was not sound, but vibration in Reuben's bones. He staggered forward despite himself, his heartbeat sinking to the wheel. "What are you?" His voice cracked. The figure's smile widened. "The keeper, the feeder. The wheel is me, and I am the wheel." It leaned low, sockets like wells. "And now you are too." The eyeless workers turned in unison, their hollow sockets fixed on Reuben. "Join." He dropped the torch. Flames hissed out in the wet. Darkness swallowed him, yet he saw more clearly than before. The cavern pulsed with life, with hunger. The wheel turned faster. The workers rocked harder. The figure's shadow stretched until it wrapped around him. Reuben clutched the bundle of letters to his chest, the only proof of what he had learned. His voice broke into a scream. "No!" The figure's hand closed around him, cold and endless. "You cannot refuse." The valley chose. The wheel turns. Reuben gasped, struggling, but the letters fell from his grip, scattering into the dark. "No!" They sank into the wet earth, swallowed whole. The pale figure's mouth stretched wider still. "Now you are mine." The wheel thundered. Reuben's body shook in rhythm. His thoughts splintered, scattered, drowned beneath the sound. He felt his limbs jerk, his breath falter, his heartbeat stutter. His vision narrowed until there was only the wheel, turning, turning, turning. And then, silence. Reuben opened his eyes. He was standing among the workers. His hands pumped in time with theirs, his head bowed. His chest was hollow, his thoughts gone. Yet some small shard of him still screamed. The pale figure stood above, watching endless. The wheel turned, and Reuben turned with it. Chapter 9, The Origin of the Wheel. Reuben's arms moved without his command, up, down, in time with the others. The motion was endless, mechanical, a parody of work. His head bowed, his eyes burned, his breath came in shallow gasps. Yet somewhere beneath it, buried but not gone, himself still thrashed. He was aware that he stood among eyeless husks, aware that the pale figure watched, aware that the wheel thundered not with water, but with blood. His body belonged to the valley, but his mind still screamed. At first, resistance brought only pain. Each time his thoughts veered from the rhythm, the wheel punished him. His skull throbbed, his bones ached, his chest constricted. But in those moments of agony, something else slipped through. Visions, not dreams, memories. Not his own, but the mill's. He saw the valley before the mill, nothing but forest and stream. A village huddled by the water, their lives bound to the land. The stream was their lifeblood, feeding crops and cattle. But one year, the waters dried. The fields withered. Children starved. The villagers prayed. And something answered. From the depths of the The vision shifted. He saw the first wheel raised, crude wood bound with iron. He saw villagers chained to its spokes. Their screams drowned in the roar of turning. Their blood ran into the soil, and crops grew tall once more. The pale figure stood at the center, smiling. The wheel must turn, it whispered. The valley must eat. Reuben's body faltered in its rhythm, his hands shaking. Pain tore through his chest, but he clung to it, forcing his mind deeper into the vision. He saw generations pass, each family feeding the wheel, each child raised to know their fate. Some resisted, but famine always followed. The wheel was the bargain, the valley's harvest for the valley's dead. And those who joined the wheel did not die. They became the eyeless workers, trapped forever in endless labor. The final vision struck like a blade. He saw the last owner of the mill, quills scratching frantically across ledgers. The man's face was hollow, his eyes sunken, his hands trembling. "We cannot stop it," he wrote. "We bind it with stone, with chains, but it turns still. It eats us. God forgive us." The man's hand dropped, blood spilling onto the page. His body staggered to the wheel. His face melted blank. Another worker joined the rhythm. Reuben gasped, the vision shattering. His body still moved, but his mind was alive, screaming. "No," he rasped, though no sound left his lips. The pale figure turned its hollow sockets on him. Its mouth stretched. "You see now," it whispered. "The valley chose. You cannot resist." Reuben's chest burned. His limbs jerked harder, trying to break free, but the rhythm clamped down like iron. "You are the last," the figure said. "The bargain must hold." Reuben forced his eyes up. He looked at the workers around him, the husks that had once been men, women, children. Among them he saw Emily. Her face was blank, sockets black, arms pumping in rhythm. Yet for one heartbeat, her head tilted, and he thought he saw her. Her lips didn't move, but her eyes, her empty eyes, pleaded. The shard of Reuben's self flared. "I won't join you," he whispered into the roar. "Not like this." Pain seared his skull, the wheel grinding his thoughts to dust. But he clung on, teeth clenched, every nerve screaming. The cavern shifted. The wheel grew larger, filling the dark. Each spoke was a body, twisted and stretched. The workers merged into its rim, their limbs fused into wood and bone. And at the wheel's hub, pulsing, beating, was a heart, black and wet, larger than the mill itself. Each turn of the wheel sent a pulse through it, echoing into the valley. The pale figure spread, its arms wide. "This is the heart of the land. Without it, the valley dies. Without it, all wither." Reuben spat blood, words torn from his throat. "Then let it wither." The cavern shook. The figure's voice deepened to a roar. "Blasphemy!" The workers faltered, their rhythm broken for the first time. The wheel groaned, shrieking as if wounded. Reuben fell to his knees, gasping. The figure loomed over him, vast and endless, its mouth splitting wider until it was nothing but a hole, a void, a hunger. "You cannot fight the wheel," it thundered. "You are the wheel." Reuben's hand brushed the mud where the letters had fallen. By some miracle, one page still clung to the damp, words barely legible. "If we burn it, will it end?" Mark's question, the letter's question, his question. Fire, the one thing the valley feared. Not death, but cleansing. The wheel thundered, drowning his thought. The figure bent lower, its breath rancid, its sockets endless. "Join," it whispered, "or burn with it." Reuben's hands closed around the sodden scrap. His voice was hoarse but steady. "Then I'll burn." The cavern screamed. The wheel shuddered, spokes splintering. The workers wailed without mouths, their rhythm breaking. The pale figure recoiled, its endless mouth snapping shut. "You dare." But Reuben was already moving. He staggered toward the fallen torch, half dead, lungs heaving. The wheel shook, flinging black water. The cavern roof split, stone raining down. Reuben's fingers closed around the torch. His last match struck, flames sputtering to life. The pale figure shrieked, voice shattering stone. "No!" Reuben hurled the flame into the wheel's heart. For one breath, nothing. Then the wheel exploded in light. Flames roared through bone and wood, fire racing along spokes slick with blood. Workers ignited, their hollow sockets spilling smoke. Their wails filled the cavern, echoing like 1,000 deaths. The pale figure thrashed, its limbs flailing against the cavern walls, mouth gaping in silent agony. Its skin blistered, split, blackened. The wheel screamed, a sound that split earth and sky. And Reuben screamed with it, swallowed in fire and dark. Chapter 10, Ashes of the Wheel. The fire ate everything. It devoured the spokes, the pulsing veins, the black heart at the wheel's center. It roared up the cavern walls, splitting stone, filling the air with the stench of boiling blood. Reuben stumbled, hands over his face, lungs clawing for breath. Each gasp seared his throat, ash coating his tongue. His body screamed to join the rhythm again, to bend and pump and move in time. But the rhythm was broken now, burned. And in its absence, silence rushed in. A silence so deep it pressed against his skull, threatening to crush what was left of him. The pale figure writhed in the flames. Its arms flailed, impossibly long, slamming against the cavern walls, cracking them like eggshells. Its mouth split wider, vomiting smoke and cinders. It howled without sound, its eyeless sockets leaking molten black. "You!" It vibrated, the voice more quake than word. "You end US." Reuben staggered toward the tunnel, vision swimming. "End you," he rasped. His lips bled where his teeth had bitten through. His ears rang, but he heard his own voice. He was still himself. For now. The ground shifted. The stone collapsed behind him. Flames raced ahead. The tunnel shuddered, walls splitting with wet cracks, water gushing through new fissures. The cavern was drowning even as it burned. Reuben crawled, dragging himself forward. He could no longer tell if he was climbing or falling, only moving. His skin blistered. His hair stank of char. Through the firelight and fog, he saw her. Emily. She stood in the tunnel, her face pale, eyes gone. Yet this time she did not smile. Her lips trembled, her hollow sockets wide. She lifted a hand. "Go," she whispered. Her voice was soft as breath, but it cut through the roar. Reuben froze. "Emily." Her face rippled, the eyeless mask cracking. For one instant, he saw her as she was, bright eyes, rain-wet hair, laughing in the pub's dim light. And then the fire swept over her. She dissolved into ash. Reuben howled, dragging himself onward. His knees tore against the stone, his palms shredded. Every nerve screamed surrender, but he moved because if he stopped, the wheel would claim him after all. The tunnel narrowed. Fire licked at his back, smoke choking his lungs. His vision dimmed, and then air. Cold, wet, blessed. He fell out of the mill's side door into the open night, coughing until blood sprayed his lips. The mill was burning. Flames crawled through its windows, black smoke pouring upward like a second while spinning in the sky. The river hissed and screamed as it boiled against the walls. The wheel outside groaned, splintered, collapsed, half submerged. The fog glowed orange. Rain fell, but the fire only rose higher, feeding on more than wood. Feeding on centuries of blood. Reuben lay in the mud, staring. The mill seemed alive, screaming as it died. Figures staggered from its base. The workers, dozens of them, eyeless and hollow, their bodies aflame. They stumbled into the river, into the mud, into the fog. Their voices joined in one unearthly wail, neither human nor beast. Reuben's chest seized. He forced himself up, clutching a jagged stone for balance. Among them, he saw faces he knew. The barkeep, the farmer's daughter, the children who played by the ford. All eyeless, all burning. They dissolved into smoke, one by one, until nothing remained but ash and cinders. A new sound rose beneath the fire's roar. The earth itself groaned. Cracks split the valley floor. Trees toppled, their roots steaming. The river turned black, its waters churning with blood and bone. The mill was not just burning. The valley was dying. The bargain was undone. Reuben staggered toward the road, but his legs gave way. He collapsed in the mud, chest heaving. From the corner of his vision, he saw the pale figure rise. Not whole, not strong, a shadow, a ghost in the flames. Its limbs were smoke, its mouth a ragged tear, its sockets bottomless. It loomed over the mill, vast as the valley itself. "You think you